Before Atlantis, before the pyramids, before even recorded history, there was Lemuria. Or so they say. A vast continent swallowed by the ocean, a peaceful race of ancient beings, and a myth that refuses to die. From 19th century science to New Age spirituality, and even whispers in the jungles of Southeast Asia, Lemuria haunts maps, minds, and modern mystery. But was it ever real? Or is it just the most beautiful hoax ever told? In 1864, British zoologist Philip Sclater was puzzled. He noticed that lemur fossils appeared in both Madagascar and India, but not in Africa or the Middle East, where you'd expect a migratory land bridge. His solution? A lost landmass he called Lemuria, which he theorized had once connected these distant lands. To him, it was a practical answer to a biological mystery, an attempt to explain evolution, not spark esoteric movements. But that theory collapsed as plate tectonics rose. Science moved on. Lemuria, at least as a real continent, was officially dead. Yet strangely, that's when the myth truly began to live. In the late 1800s, mystic Helena Blavatsky hijacked Sclater's idea and spun it into a mythic narrative. According to her esoteric teachings in theosophy, Lemurians were the third root race, giant, spiritually advanced, telepathic beings who predated modern humans. They weren't just ancient, they were divine. They didn't walk, they glided. They didn't speak, they thought in pure vibration. Later writers like W. Scott Elliott and James Churchward expanded this with tales of Mu, another sunken land, sometimes overlapping with Lemuria. Suddenly, the lost continent became a spiritual origin story for humanity, especially for people outside the Western narrative of Eden. But here's the catch. None of it had archaeological evidence. It was built on visions, channeling, and belief, not science. The idea of a sunken land isn't unique to theosophy. In India, the Tamil legend of Kumari Kandam tells of a lost southern continent where Tamil culture flourished before being drowned by the sea. In Polynesian lore, stories of vanished islands like Hawaii or Rayati appear again and again, oral memories of rising tides or lost homelands. In the Philippines, some claim Lemuria is buried beneath Mount Apo, Palawan, or the Benham Rise. Others associate it with mystical cities like Buringan or point to the Philippines' biodiversity and cultural depth as proof of an ancient motherland. But none of these are supported by the geological record. They're beautiful, powerful, and emotionally resonant, but speculative. There is no scientific evidence that Lemuria ever existed. Modern geology has thoroughly mapped the Earth's tectonic plates, ocean ridges, and continental shifts. We now understand that landmasses don't simply sink into the ocean. The theory of plate tectonics confirms the movements of continents over millions of years, but no sunken continent like Lemuria has ever been found. Not in the Indian Ocean, not in the Pacific. Yes, ancient flood myths exist around the world. Yes, sea levels have risen after ice ages, submerging coastal areas. But the idea of a fully developed supercontinent with advanced civilizations vanishing overnight? That belongs in myth, not science. And yet, for many, Lemuria still feels deeply real. Not because of data or fossils, but because of what it symbolizes. A time before colonizers rewrote history. A place where people of color lived in balance with nature. A motherland not rooted in conquest, but in harmony. It may not be a land that ever existed beneath the sea, but it's one that has always existed in the imagination of those searching for where they came from. So why does the Lemurian myth continue to thrive, despite scientific dismissal? Because people don't just seek truth, they seek meaning. In a world where many cultures have had their histories erased, rewritten, or buried, the idea of a lost homeland, especially one untouched by colonialism, is powerfully healing. Lemuria offers something Atlantis never did, a non-Western Eden. A tropical, spiritual civilization that centers nature, intuition, and ancestral wisdom. It's not about flying machines or crystal weapons, it's about identity and memory. For many in the Philippines and across the Pacific, Lemuria resonates with a deep emotional truth, that there was greatness before conquest. Before the Spanish, before Christianity, before foreign maps named their shores. The myth gives voice to a buried pride, a whispered memory of civilizations that didn't make it into Western textbooks. Lemuria endures not because it's real, but because it feels like it could have been. It fills the void where stolen history once lived, and transforms longing into mythology. Lemuria may never have been carved into any map. No tectonic plate bears its name. No archaeologist has unearthed its temples. But that doesn't mean it holds no truth. Sometimes, myths survive not because they're factual, but because they speak to wounds that history books won't touch. Lemuria isn't just a fantasy, it's a mirror. A reflection of what people lost, what they were denied, or what they dreamed could have been. It's the homeland for those who never got to write their own origin story. In the end, maybe Lemuria was never about finding a continent. Maybe it was about reclaiming something else. Identity, heritage, dignity. Something ancient that lives not under the sea, but within the soul of every person still searching for where they truly come from. And that's why we keep diving into myth, not to find land, but to find ourselves.